So welcome back to the Dunwoody Dialogues. Here we chat with local people that have a lot of important things to do with our business or with our community or helping us grow. I am Mark Galvin. I'm the Director of Marketing with Discover Dunwoody, and I am excited to introduce you to our guest today, Robyn Watson. Robyn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so glad you came to the worldwide headquarters of Discover Dunwoody to chat with us today.
I love it. Thank you for inviting me. I'm
bet.
always excited to talk about, the industry, entertainment industry, how we can make it better. And so you guys are doing a great job with helping that.
Well, thank you. You're with WIFTA, which is, I got to make sure I get all the words right.
Get it right.
Women in Film and Television Atlanta.
Correct.
So from now on, we're going to say WIFTA. What is WIFTA? What do you do and why do you do it?
So WIFTA is one of 46 plus chapters around the United States. There's also a Women in Film and Television US,
Okay.
which is kind of like our governing. WIFT US.
WIFTA, okay.
So
All right.
US, which is kind of like our governing board.
Okay.
And then there's a WIFT International, and I actually sat on that board for 2 years.
Oh, wow. WIFT-I?
WIFT.
Or WIFT-D?
WIFT-D.
WIFT-D, okay, good.
So,
So what do you, it sounds like you're focused on helping women be more successful in film and television.
that's part of it. So
Okay.
it's helping women be more successful, providing resources. We're a member organization, so with that comes, we get to celebrate and highlight and tout all the work that's being done by women in this industry.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And you have a little bit of history in media. So I'm going to look at my notes here because I don't want to get anything wrong. You worked with Gannett, which is USA Today.
Correct.
And I had to practice that because I've always said Gannett. You were also with Warner Media. We're going to come back to that. Time Warner and others. But what's really interesting to me, being in the marketing space, is you were lead comms on the lead comms team launching HBO Max.
Yes.
And wait a minute, when did HBO Max launch? Was that like right as the pandemic hit?
That was in May of 2020. So right as the pandemic hit, we were instructed in March, bring your laptops home for a couple of weeks. We're going to be working because of this COVID thing. We're going to be working from home. And we were like, okay. Fast forward, we're all working still from home a lot.
Right.
But no, we launched HBO Max during the pandemic. And it was an interesting time because there was a lot of communications that happens with a launch, of course. And a lot of it used to be, hey, meet you, for coffee to talk about this, or pass somebody in the hallway to get a question answered fairly quickly. Trying to do it, through video chats and emails.
Which is hard.
It was hard.
But it worked.
Yeah. And, doing the distribution comms, talking to the charters and the Comcasts of the world about how do we launch this. It was a great thing to do, a nice distraction for COVID, during COVID.
You were busy.
Because we were busy.
Yeah.
And when we were hearing stories where people were losing their jobs, not working, not doing anything, we were, feet to the ground, like really launching HBO Max.
So cool. Now there's something that HBO did during that is that all the feature films from which production companies went straight to HBO?
So we called it the popcorn series, right? So when Warner Brothers launched theatrical, it also launched on HBO Max for 30 days.
It's just so cool. And you know what? It made me subscribe. Absolutely. I subscribed because, and it wasn't just no-name movies. These were big movies that were coming out that all went straight to HBO, and I loved it.
And it was a great way for the company to kind of show that we hear what you're saying. We know you can't get out, but we'd love to provide this other opportunity for you to, here to get the content that you want the way you need to get it.
Right.
And so it worked.
So I have a big screen. Well, actually, I don't have a big screen. I have a projector in my living room.
Okay.
And don't tell anybody, but I had friends over. We were watching all the great shows that were coming out. Shh, don't tell anybody.
just hand sanitizer.
That's right.
It worked out well.
We isolated,
Right,
sort of.
right.
All right, so one of the things that you've done, and I think this is really cool, you're from New York.
From
so,
New York. Whoop, whoop,
you
New
know,
York.
Long Island and all that area, right?
Brooklyn and Long Island.
There we go. See, I got her to say Long Island before we started. But you came south for college. You went to Emory. We love Emory. And then went to Chicago to Benedictine, and you got your master's in organizational leadership. And I bring that up because I think it says a lot about how you're driven in your internal goals, because you're not just, you did climb the ladder and you did a lot of great things, but you were really leaning into this. You are a people person through and through.
Thank you. I like to consider myself a people person. I always look for opportunities to not only learn and grow, but learn and grow so I can help somebody else learn and grow.
Oh,
and so
cool.
my focus at Benedictine was more on women leadership. And
good.
I'm all girl power. I say that.
Go girls.
Go girls.
I have two girls. I'm right there with you.
Love it. And I think we lead the world, and for good reason. And so I'm always like, okay, what did I learn? Okay, what can I share? I'll tell you this story. When I came down here from New York, I was on the board of New York Women in Film and Television.
Okay.
And so when I came down here, the first thing I said is, I have to join this board, or at least get involved. And it was at a time when WIFTA was reorganizing. So the executive director from New York called the president down here and said, I have one of my board members moving down. You really need to tap into her. And so the minute I got down here, I was involved in Women in Film. And I love that because we need to uplift women. And I'm not just like pushing up. We need to uplift women's organizations. And we have a lot of male allies. We love the men in our organization. You guys help us. But we need people to understand that we like to get stuff done. And so it was important for me to do that.
It's an awareness thing.
Yes.
You know, and I think that in any place that you go, there has to be an awareness where you sit back and say, okay, here's something that you're not considering, which I think is really important. I mean, there are things still happening today that we thought that we were done with. Like, there was a news article that came out just yesterday on the FDIC. It sounds like the FDIC is still running like they were in the 80s.
Right.
So the awareness piece is important, and as a dad of two young women, I think it's super important. And they need help too, right?
Right.
You need a place for them to come in and where they can tap into resources to build their own careers.
Right.
Which is, I think, just super cool.
Super important. I think awareness is a great word, because I always like to say that we as people need to change as the world changes. Whether the world is changing because we're not changing or changing, we need to be the ones to kind of be the catalyst for change. And so I'm always looking for ways to, especially in this industry, right? The entertainment industry is one of the funkiest industries in the world.
It?
I think so.
Okay.
In that things are always changing, but it only changes depending on who's the most involved. So I think if you have a lot of women involved in things, you're going to see lots of good change.
Good change.
Great
I like
change.
that. Well, I'm going to shift gears.
Okay.
And I want to jump into the settlement of these labor disagreements, right? So SAG is good to go. The Writers Guild is good to go. They're all approved, right?
Yes.
All the members have approved. That's great. So because we sit in Georgia, I'm just curious, are you seeing anything already changing in this space right now?
So I see the excitement. I see people excited to get back to work. I hear all the conversations about we're back to work.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take some time, right, for
So
productions
ramp-up's
to
got to be hard. I'm guessing.
Ramp-
It's not like you
right.
flip the light switch on, everybody goes back to their offices.
Right, and think about it. For a couple of months, production was like shut down.
Right.
The ramp up is going to be that as well. You can't just be like, okay, they're back and like let's get the productions done. I think there's a lot of work happening now on the ground where people are, starting to ramp up. But I think it's going to take, a couple of months.
I do kind of wonder if we could go over to Assembly Atlanta
Right.
and go in and join the NBC Universal folks, who are the major tenant over as Assembly Studios at Assembly Atlanta. I bet they're crazy right now because they've got all these moving parts. You know, they probably have said, you know, they probably have all these pieces of paper on their desktop, says, okay, this production's coming, this production, and they have to figure out how to pull all the resources together to get that going, even though it's right there on their site.
Right, and look, I think that people were like just so hopeful that everything. So I'm hoping they're organized enough, but even the best organized group, it's still going to take some time. Getting the people, you know, back to work, getting things going. The same way it took with, you know, like COVID. COVID's never been over, but once you got one production house that started the work, everybody's like, okay, we have a model now to follow. And so they'll start figuring it out. But that takes time.
Yeah, it does take time. Well, we're excited about this,
Yes.
certainly in our state of Georgia. We've got so many new facilities that are opening and are open that I think that there's a lot of positive things happening.
And I love that.
Yes.
Trust me, I love that.
So, do you like the South? Do you like living in Atlanta?
So I'm a New Yorker, but my whole family's from the South, from
good.
South Carolina.
All right.
So I've had those kind of Southern roots.
Yeah.
I still consider myself a New Yorker, but every time I go there, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I live in Atlanta.
Right.
I think about, how would I have survived COVID living in my townhouse in Manhattan? It would have been a different way of living.
Yeah, I heard it was harder in Manhattan than
it was
in
harder in
Georgia.
New York. You know, thank goodness, you know, we were here, but you know, it was a different way of living. But so I consider the South my home now.
I love that. I love that. So I want to go to another topic. This is interesting. One of the things that happens is when I've seen this, when productions are coming in and say they're going to, they want to use my home. They haven't, but say they want to use my home. I have to sign all these non-disclosure documents, and I can't tell anybody about anything. Why is it so secretive? You know, as a marketer, I think, okay, it might not be a bad thing if I were to go out and say, hey, you know, there's this new movie, White Paper America, I just didn't make that right, that was in my house. Why wouldn't they want me to do that?
Let me put it to you this way. White Paper America comes into your house, you promote it, like they were here, there were some scenes. What if that scene doesn't make it to the cutting floor?
Well, it's not bad.
Not a bad thing. Yeah. What if the film never gets done?
Ooh, yeah, that's a problem.
What if there's legal aspects to the film once it gets done?
Okay.
So you should not not want to be tied up in that.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's great at some point once the film is out. Yeah, you start talking about and promoting it. But I feel like there's probably some marketing secrets they want to keep, or maybe some legal aspects that, you know.
Maybe even control the message.
Control the message,
What is the story about and the timing? Like, there are a few movies, and I've seen them. You know, they were supposed to come out in October, and they got pushed to January, and then they got this happened in COVID. No, we're going to release it in July, and now it's December. But at least that message was controlled by the marketing department. They said, this is the story we want to share, because that is really important. Especially, you know, you've got a message, you need to make sure you stick to that message because you'll achieve your goals better.
Yeah, and the marketing and promotions of a movie are super important. So if you have super expensive too. So if you have some kind of leaks beforehand, or you're talking about it, people are always going to make assumptions about. They could make assumptions about a movie before it actually comes out.
Right.
And then once the movie comes out, they'll be like, what does Mark have to do with this? And what does that scene in his living room have to do with it? Remember, when people come in for locations and stuff, it's really about creating a perception of what that room is, right? Yeah. And so if you jump out ahead of it, you've helped them create a perception that might not be the right direction that the movie wants to go in.
Yeah,
so I think it's a matter of like marketing and legal and balancing that out. But sure, once the movie's done, start promoting it. So that was my house. That's my living room.
Yeah.
My kid made that picture on the wall, like
that's really
all of
cool.
that.
You know, I guess there's also a worry that if I was talking about it and there were some famous people that were in and out of my house, you'd probably have the whole neighborhood showing up too. There's that. That's got to be an issue too.
Yeah, probably legal and privacy, and then marketing. I'm sure those are the reasoning.
All right, so we've talked a lot about WIFTA. We've talked about what the organization does and how the organization helps women. What's the future of WIFTA?
So I like to tell this story of how I got into women in film. I met a young lady. I got invited to a women in film event in New York. I was not part of WIFTA. I was working at Time Warner Cable at the time.
Okay.
And I got invited to this event. And I walk into this event and I meet this young lady who, she was in her late 20s and she had done a film when she was in college. And she's like, I've done this film. I think it's really great.
She actually made the film.
She made the film. She was the filmmaker.
Oh, okay, got it.
And she's like, I've been wanting to finish this film. It's like, oh, so why don't you finish this film? I'm, all girl power. Start, finish what you start. You start something, plan it out so you can finish it, get the success. And she told me she needed $3,500 to finish this film. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so is it like, she's like, I could have finished it 3-4 years ago, but I needed $3,500. And I was like, to finish a film? And she told me about the film. And I remember thinking, just early in the day, I bought lanyards and pencils at my company, and I spent like $12,000. So to me, $3,500 to finish a film like that would catapult her life. I thought, I was like, well, why can't you get the money? Do you have family? No, I don't have any family. Do you have, grants or, other funding options? And so I finished that event. The next day I went to my boss and I remembered saying to her, like, yeah, I was at this event last night and, hey, I have some discretionary funds. Like, is there a way that the company can kind of give back? She's like, well, what's the organization? I was like, New York Women in Film and Television. She was like, yeah, that's one of our organizations. She's like, if you want to use the funds, just go through our corporate social responsibility. So I went to them, I was like, hey, I met this filmmaker. They were like, well, what do you want us to do? I was like, well, I have discretionary funds in my budget. She's like, but they're part of we can give money as a company.
It doesn't have to impact your budget.
It doesn't have to impact my budget. I was like, great, even better. So the company gave, I think, $25,000 for the year to WIFTA that went into their grant finishing project.
So wait a minute, they actually ended up awarding them $25K.
The organization,
yep.
$25K.
Right.
And that when they got the money from Time Warner Cable, they came to me and said, hey, we'd like for you to be on our board because we need corporate people who could help our filmmakers who get this. So that's how I got on the board.
Oh, that's
cool. Where my passion started.
Did the young lady get the $3,500?
She got the finishing funds, and then if you look on, the Women in WIFTA's website, they have a grant program that's
so cool.
that continues to get funded by corporations or independent investors, and so that was my foray into Women in Film. I started supporting the organization because I was like, if it's just money. Small amounts of money, of course there are films with larger budgets, but if filmmakers, especially female filmmakers, just need that little bit of help, why shouldn't we help?
Yeah, help them out. And $3,500, I mean,
was nothing.
What I'm seeing these films spend, that's one day. That may be a half a day.
Right, and she just needed
some films actually maybe an hour of some films.
And I think she just needed that last $3,500. This is coming back to me now. Sorry.
We're stretching here.
Really stretching me. $3,500 to pay the editor because he wouldn't release the final cut because she couldn't pay him. And so it's stuff like that people don't understand, that this industry. When I said earlier that it was a little funky, there are certain nuances to things. If you don't have kind of ironclad, agreements with people, with editors or producers or directors, there's a strong, they can hold up your production.
Yeah, they're not employees, they're all contractors.
They're all contractors, all independent, so.
Wow, that is so cool. It really is. I mean, something that's interesting about the entertainment space, it is very complex because of how it's layered. And this is actually a great transition. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, in Georgia, we've got a lot of production space. So we get a lot of the day-to-day filming and content creation happens in our state now. But we don't have, as I like to say, the before and the after. So, you know, and there's names for this, and because I'm a pedestrian when it comes to the film space, I don't know all the names, but you got the people that at the beginning to sit back and say, hey, look, here's a topic. We need somebody to write a script, and we got to find financing for that. All that still happens in other locations. And on the back end, all the post-production goes to another location. How do we get that to be built and started and maintained in Georgia?
So, and this is a great question, because one of the things, again, when I got here from New York, that I noticed, there was, even in 2017, 2018, when I got here, there was so much production, but there wasn't representation, industry representation. So like the Marvels of the world would come in and film at what's now Trilith or whatever studio that
So it was called Pinewood,
Pinewood,
right? And now it's Trilith. Okay,
correct.
good.
But they would come in and film, and then they'd leave. And the one thing, you know, I'd say, oh, well, I want to talk to a Marvel representation. I'd get a phone number for somebody out in California. I was like, what do you know about, you know, being a good community partner in Atlanta?
Right.
And so that my challenge was, who do I talk to get that to happen?
Right.
So I had a lot of phone calls with Marvel and kind of looping them in. I was like, do you have somebody on the ground here? Like, or when you guys come into town, can you stay after a production? Can you set up an office somewhere so there's a local phone number, or let WIFTA help you with that? We'd love to be your community partner.
That's great.
And help
it
you with
could
that.
ultimately save them some money too.
I could save them some money, but you know, unfortunately, you know, the production houses like that, they come in. It's so, I hate to say it this way, they kind of use us for what they need us for. Look, they're on the ground, they crew up here, they get our people involved, but then they leave. And I feel that to get more jobs here, we need the like bigger brands or the bigger production houses to have representation here.
So we've somehow got to get them to see the value of being local, because I mean, there is a cost.
There is a cost
of moving a group that may be, say, in LA to Atlanta. Why would I do that? There's got to be, got to answer the why. Back to marketing.
Right.
Why? But it is important for the vibrancy and the sustainability, of our industry in Georgia to get them to come here.
Yeah, and I think it's having good industry partners here.
Right.
Like, so the value of like WIFTA, like, hey, we want to be like one of your top resources for if you plan to come here and produce something.
Yeah.
We need to be that resource. So, but the flip side of that is we need to have that backing, because we are a nonprofit organization, of 800 plus members. We have a lot of members.
800 members, that's a lot.
But we have 800 members.
And that's in Atlanta, that's the WIFTA, that's Atlanta.
So, and remember, our members include, we have members from New York. We have a dual membership program with New York. So you sign up with us for an additional fund, you can become a dual member of New York. So we have women from Louisiana. I told you about the story of the woman who called me she's from Orlando, wanting to become a WIFTA member because her agent lives here.
That's so interesting.
So we have members
How does Georgia compare, or Atlanta, compared to other regions of the country? We have a lot of members, or average number? How does that
We are
play?
the second largest chapter.
Okay, see, that's notable.
Behind LA.
Yep.
And we're the second oldest chapter. So us
Behind
in
LA?
Behind LA.
Okay.
And so we it's not a competition. We want to support all women. So we have LA women who are part of our membership. But what I would like is when a production house or a filmmaker, when they say, oh, I want to come to film in Atlanta, we are in their top 5 of resources to go to help crew up, to help connect them to other organizations.
So big.
I would love it to be like we're the community resource for all things film and television.
And because, and I mentioned before, it is a complicated process because you have all these contractors. It's not like everybody's an employee. So having a resource like you available can make somebody's life a lot easier.
Yeah, just we want to, even if we're the connector, like, hey, you know, we do get calls and emails from production houses like, hey, I'm filming in whatever, I need a costume designer or whatever. So we'll pull from our member list, because we have profiles of all of our members, and say, hey, here are 10 costume designers. Reach out to them directly.
So this is awesome. It is one of the reasons why we wanted Robyn here with us today. We want people to stay in Dunwoody, right? That's our mission here at Discover Dunwoody. And we realized, just like you, let's establish relationships with people who can help us. So you can certainly help us as well as you're helping everybody in the city, because you know a number of destination marketing organizations. I do know that. But if somebody called you and they said, hey, I'm on the side of Atlanta where Dunwoody is, and they say, where should I, I need a hotel.
I know who to connect you to.
There we go.
I know where you should go.
Yeah.
Right.
But those relationships are so important, and this is absolutely a relationship business. We have seen that with our relationship that we've developed with Assembly Atlanta, that it really is that relationship first and then execute. You got to provide great service, because you can burn that bridge.
Absolutely.
And so we're excited. We're at the execution stage now. We're starting to look at how we can help these new productions that are coming into Assembly Atlanta now and find hotels for them. And you know what? We think this is such an economic driver for our region. This is so important for all of you that are in this space, that are here in Dunwoody or in the perimeter or in Atlanta. How much business, how many dollars are going to come into this region, into Atlanta, with just Assembly Atlanta? I'm not even talking about all the other studios, because we could list them. We could be here all day listing all the studios. It is pretty incredible how good it's going to be for Atlanta. And I know you've seen this too. How is it like Trilith? Trilith has had a huge impact on that, where they're down there in
Fayetteville.
Wherever that is. And
down there.
But that space, and we went for a tour down there recently and saw, it is just incredible what they've done there. It's a lot of money that's gone into that economy.
And it's a lot of money, but think about the impact to the community. Again, I go back to, we're women in film and television in Atlanta, but really Georgia, because filming is happening across the state.
All over.
And so it's just important for, especially a nonprofit. We're a nonprofit, 800 plus members, working board of directors. We don't have we don't have an office. We don't have a staff or...
Well, you did tell me that your phone rang on the way here, and somebody was calling WIFTA, and they had reached the worldwide headquarters of WIFTA as you were driving over here.
Yes, and I had a conversation with a young lady from Orlando who wants to become a member, because that's the lady who her agent is here. And so people have to understand, WIFTA, we stand on our own.
Right.
My board, I love my board of directors, because we work, and everybody has like a regular job, but we work at this because we are passionate about this industry. We are passionate about supporting women. We're passionate about growing Georgia entertainment, and us having, a stake in that. And so that's why we do what we do.
All right, that's awesome. All right, we got to wrap. I'm sorry we can't keep talking, but we may send you an invitation to come back to hear about what's happening in the industry. If something pops up, are you game to come back and chat about those things?
I'm always game to talk about the industry.
This is cool. We want to let our audience know where they can find you. So where can folks find you and WIFTA online?
So you can reach me at wifta.org under About Us. All of my board members' email addresses are there, so you can reach me or any one of our board members. I'm personally on LinkedIn, as is WIFTA. I'm Robyn Watson, Robyn Watson. We're on Instagram. WIFTA's very busy on Instagram. We put that's our place to go to. We put all of our events and all of our activities on Instagram, and it's WIFT Atlanta, and I'm Robyn A. Watson on Instagram.
Well, Robyn A. Watson, I am so glad that you made some time to come see us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for
and
having
you know what?
me.
I'm a Southerner. I grew up in the South, and we don't typically like Northerners, but I like you.
But you like me?
I do.
I'm honored.
You're changed the entire brand of all those Northerners that I didn't like so much. So
love
thanks
that.
for the time.
Thank you.
We
Thank you
appreciate
for having me.
You bet. My pleasure. And thank you for watching. I am Mark Galvin. This show is produced by Discover Dunwoody. Our producer is Madison Holtz, and our sound technician is Emily Inser Gibson. I do want you to remember, you can go and get one of our Dunwoody stickers. We give these away. How about that? We give them away. All you got to do is you can come to our office. We have plenty here, or go check out the library or City Hall. We even gave a bunch to Sproul, so you can go to Sproul and get some of those Dunwoody stickers. On behalf of the entire Discover Dunwoody team, thanks for watching. Be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us at Discover Dunwoody or on our website at discoverdunwoody.com. Until next time, enjoy the day and come Discover Dunwoody.